Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the small-time tournament. We are on Game 5 of this best-of-5 series between Threnody, the Red Zerg, and Incoherence, the Blue Protoss. I am Nacho Cheese.
And I'm Unctuous, and we're about to get into Game 5, an absolutely ridiculous matchup. Threnody taking those first two games in an amazing display of Zerg playing, and Incoherence now fighting his way back. We're going into a Game 5 that I don't know what to expect on MLG Shattered Temple. And I think we're holding up everything by watching these semifinals, or by holding up these semifinals a little bit. One of these players has to move on, and it's just going to take some time.
Now, as you mentioned, Threnody just showed amazing Zerg play in Game 1 and Game 2, and has shown strong play in Games 3 and 4. Incoherence able to sort of win an almost base race in Game 3 on Shakur's Plateau, and then in Game 4, just out of nowhere, able to just macro up a great army, get a lot of Colossus out, and shut down his Zerg opponent. And so we will be going into Game 5 on Shattered Temple. We will be starting as soon as Threnody decides it's okay to press the start button. Until then, we're getting another spectator. We are not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, but we can't have another spectator in here. We've made a nice rule about that. But going into Game 5, I'm looking forward to see Threnody try something else. I'd really like to see him. We've seen him do Roach Hydra really well. We've seen him use an Nidus Canal, not huge. He didn't do it over and over again. He had one nice push with it, and he still had it up. I don't know why he didn't continue using it. And maybe if he had, he would have been able to do something about it, something about his loss. And now we're going to get into the game. But what I'd really like to see him try something different. I think Incoherence has found his weak point, his opponent's weak point, and he's going to be able to use it over and over again.
I'm going to take a wild guess that you are wanting to see some Baneling play.
I would love to see some Baneling play. In fact, Baneling drops would be great against an army like Incoherence has been setting up over and over again. He just makes a death ball most of the time, and he just leaves it out in front of his natural, and that would be a great time to stream in a bunch of Overlords. All of those units are going to get pinned back against the natural. He's not going to be able to move away from them. The Banelings will come down, splash damage everywhere, babies crying, women screaming. It would be a massacre.
Just absolutely horrible damage from those Banelings. Now, as I mentioned before, this is part of the small-time tournament. This is a small casual tournament that was started by Zen, or Rabidbot, as he's known on Reddit. Unctuous and I are... I'm a first-time caster. Unctuous is a fairly new caster, and we have just been having so much fun. We've been playing for almost 5 hours now, playing and casting, having a great time. Threnody and Incoherence definitely bringing me, at least, some of the most exciting games I have seen in this whole event. And big thanks to Zen. Big shout out to Darker and Zen, who are also casting other games. And I believe we have another caster, Waylord, who is casting some games. And a big shout out to you, Unctuous. I have really been enjoying this co-cast with you this series.
Yeah, this is actually my first time co-casting with anybody, so this has been a wonderful experience so far. I think we've been doing at least a fairly good job of keeping track of everything going on. And it looks like there's a probe doing a nice little scout in the back of Threnodi's base, and that spawning pool has gone down. I think he did the same exact extractor move where he doesn't do the extractor trick to get an additional something additional out. He just throws down an extractor, gets it up as soon as possible to get that Ling speed right when the spawning pool finishes.
We will see what he's going to do with this first 100 gas, whether he gets the Ling speed as expected, or whether he's going to get his lair tech. He is starting Ling speed just like we saw last game, so he might be going for some early Ling pressure, trying to bust up this ramp. Definitely going to be doing something with that Ling speed. Does not want to let that 100 gas go to waste, as that could be better spent with some roaches, or getting lair tech, or anything, or getting some Banelings.
So we didn't actually mention it entirely, But as you can see, in the leftmost position is our red Zerg Threnody, and cross position from him is our blue Protoss Incoherence, who's been fighting his way back to take this reverse sweep. Maybe he'll do it, maybe he won't, we'll see what happens. But now we're just about to get a hatchery down from our Zerg player, and nobody on gas because he doesn't need it. He's just going to be sitting back, droning up the best that he can, and just try to get his economy going, which he's been able to do in these past games. And while Zerglings are rushing over, standard, just going to leave them outside of his base over here. Going to be able to push up on the ramp just a little bit, going to get a little bit of vision, going to see that sentry out, not going to see any funny play in like those 2 zealots we saw last game that would have that threw him off just a little bit. But it looks like we have a pretty standard opening right now from both players, as always, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Incoherence do this 3-gate expand again.
Definitely very reasonable. These Zerglings sitting down at the bottom of the ramp, just getting a good idea of what's going on. And this Zealot, going to be caught out of position. If those Speedlings could get by, they could have done nice damage to the workers. But the Zealot able to run back up the ramp just in time to be able to protect that. This Overlord is getting a sweet spot where he can sit just here, or maybe here above these cliffs, and can scout all sorts of wonderful things that the Protoss is doing. And a Protoss, unless he gets an air unit, like an Observer or a Phoenix, will not be able to stop that, and will have most of his plans revealed, unless he starts building on the left side of the team.
And it does indeed look like we're getting those 3 gates up again. Just chrono boosting out Warp Gate, gonna get a Nexus real soon. And it looks like that's standard play, and you know, if it's been working for him, I don't see why he wouldn't keep doing it. Now this is a much smaller map than the last 2 we've been on have been, so we have to note that these gold expansions are out there, can be maintained actually fairly well. These are much easier to defend than the gold expansions are on Metalopolis like we saw. But it looks like moving out, the Protoss player moving out just a little bit with a smaller force of sentries than he has had. Usually he'd stop at 8, but right now we are not there. And these Zerglings moving forward, going to scout that, knows that Nexus is going down, and he, in response, just continues doing what he's doing, just macroing up.
Definitely true. Incoherence has got to be happy that he's able to take his base. Not a whole lot of pressure coming up. That speed upgrade is not really being used by our Zerg player very much. Again, he's going to be poking in here, just making sure, yep, that is a Nexus. Did not make a mistake there. And as you mentioned, Unchit, he's responding by droning up a little more. He's getting both his extractors as natural. He's dropping some spore crawlers. We must be expecting some airplay or maybe Dark Templar, but he is not seeing any of that. As all we have in production for Incoherence is another gateway and this Nexus, and now a robotics facility going down, which he has definitely not yet scouted. So a bit of wasted minerals here with the spore crawler, but who knows, it could come in handy. 10 minutes from now we could be saying, oh, clutch spore crawlers, so we will have to wait and see. A Roachborn and a double evolution chamber going down for Threnody.
You know, Incoherence is just sitting in his comfort zone. He is playing this out the way he knows how to play. It doesn't really matter exactly what Threnody is doing. All that matters is that he gets what he wants. This is a plan that he had before he came into this game. He says, I'm gonna do this specific build that I've practiced up. There's a gateway sitting there that's not a warp gate, and I'm gonna let him do whatever he's doing. He's gonna need to figure out how to respond to me, because my force is gonna be big enough to roll right in when the time is right. And that's what he's been proving to us. So, I mean, props to him. I'm just scared to see that Threnody is going to adapt a little bit. For example, it looks like he has these Zerglings trying to take down these destructible rocks. Not to mention a massive roach force coming out right now. Don't know what that face is about.
Not entirely sure. Threnody, not very sure either. We are seeing a lot of roaches come out for Threnody. Don't know if he's going to be going for another sort of early roach pressure. But these are a lot of larvae that he could be using on drones in order to get his macro up. You know, as you mentioned, he is taking out these rocks to get this gold expansion. I think this is more of a long-term play, as he has not moved a lot of his units to town, although now he is moving all his roaches over I really think this is just sort of a use of DPS. You've got these units sitting here, you may as well take them just a little bit out from your base, especially when you've got control of the Zone 9 tower, you know what's coming. You can use that DPS to clear out an expansion that can come in a few seconds or a few minutes or even 10 minutes. Just get that ready for you to move on. Why waste those units just sitting outside your base when you can do that? So that's exactly what we're seeing. We're not seeing a hatchery yet here, just a lot more roaches in production. We now have 20 roaches to augment these 4 pesterlings, and we are seeing the Zerg macro advantage start to come into play as he has 51 drones to the Protoss' 40 drones. Definitely gearing up for a longer term game, although these spine crawlers moving up in an interesting position. Not really sure I like this position, as it's not really able to guard the whole entrance to the natural. There's a little bit at the top where you can sneak in by, and it's not really doing anything to protect this exposed third.
Yeah, I think if he moved those back just a little bit, I mean, they'd be covering that choke point. Right now, they're not really covering either side completely, which is going to be an issue. However, we did see an Overlord go by, and adding on 3 more gates immediately, and a robotics bay. He's looking to do a very, very, very heavy push sometime soon, and he's going to go all out with this. I think he wants to take this last game in a blaze of glory. However, I think what he's been obsessed about is that he's been getting supply blocked time and time again. This is actually the 3rd or 4th time he's getting supply blocked, and that's probably why he threw down all those gateways and the robotics bay. There's a lot of minerals that he's not going to be able to use on units because he keeps supply blocking himself. So he needs to find other ways to use it. And instead of taking another expansion, he's just throwing down as many unit-producing facilities as he can, so that as these minerals, pile up, he'll be able to spend them once he gets on supply blocked. That gold base is up for Threnody, soon to be mining, I'm sure, and this massive roach army is just sitting in the middle. I think he's comfortable in saying that there's no Stargate play, like he saw that Overlord go by. When he sent that Overlord by, he didn't see anything of that sort. So he's just going to sit on these roaches, and I didn't see a Hydra Den go down. Oh, there's an infestation pit up, however, and that's going to provide some serious help if he gets some infestors out, but I don't see any coming out. Oh yeah, there is a Hydra Den.
There is a Hydra Den, there's a roach one, there's an infestation pit, but I think most importantly right now, there are 42 roaches right out in the middle of the map. There's 1 infestor finished with a small number of lings. This is starting to look like a fearsome army, and yet our Zerg player you just saw there was still busy making 10 drones, so he's still going up for a huge macro advantage. Now he does have 3 bases to the Protoss' 2. One of those bases is this gold expansion, which is now up and mining. And now he's taking out these rocks down at the bottom, probably to check this third. Now he does have this Overlord here, which has not spotted this third for a while. He may be suspicious that a third base is up there, so he's going to be taking out those rocks to clear the way to check for that, and also open up a back door. But now this Protoss force moving out, going to be engaging the roaches here and pulling back, both sides deciding this battle is not worth it, and returning to their bases. Although Threnody keeping control of the Zelnag tower once he sees that his opponent is not giving chase.
Now it looks like the Protoss army is going to go and try to take that these destructible rocks down to get this gold expansion. But what's very interesting is that we see a lot of Overlords moving into the side. It almost looks like he's feigning a drop. Those are definitely not loaded up with anything. He doesn't even have ventral stacks, but he has a ton of Overlords out here just waiting. I wonder if he's going to try to see if he can get this Protoss force to move back into the natural. And he's going to be taking down these rocks just to give himself a back door. I think if all of those forces can get locked on the back of that main, he'll move all of his forces through this little back entrance and be able to attack the natural while his opponent is afraid of drops right in the side.
Now we do have a little bit of fear of drops. Incoherence bringing back some stalkers to try and defend this. Now, what's so important here, as you see, there are no units here. He doesn't have ventral stacks upgraded. There is no drop, but Threnody is starting to get into the head of his opponent. He's putting him on the defensive, and that can make people start to make mistakes. We are seeing that Threnody is at 200 supply. He is maxed Incoherence is at 174 supply. And look at this, Threnody throwing down 2 hatcheries at the top 2 bases. He is just getting ready to be able to do exactly what Zergs love to do, sacrifice entire armies at Protoss walls and be able to macro up an entire replacement army before the Protoss can really start to recuperate its losses. And if you're a Zerg, you can really throw away your army 2 or 3 times and get it completely destroyed and still come out ahead, because you can just completely get an entirely new armory in about 30 seconds and just overwhelm your opponent with the mass. It is called the Zerg Swarm for a reason.
You know, a lot of these Zerg units have massive upgrades. Those Zerglings rushing into the natural, going to try to do some kind of work, trying to take out that those cannons. The entire force is moving back. The drones will get pulled, but these Zerglings are going to be very hard to kill with +3 level carapace, but not too much for those Colossi to handle. It looks like he's going to take this opportunity to move forward, and there's one Vesterling, which will not last for very long. All 3 Colossi bringing down the beams on top of him. And these Roach Force is still just sitting in the middle. There's a bunch of Lings just hanging out. Whoa, Infestors on the goal, throwing down a bunch of infested Terrans right in the back of it, take out a lot of those probes, moving the entire... It looks like every time Incoherence wants to move, he moves his entire army. And that could be a little bit dangerous if he overreacts to every single thing. As long as our Zerg player drops in a few places at once or brings in enemies all over the place, he's not going to be able to handle it.
These Infestors are getting caught off guard with these 2 observers spotting them burrowed, and they will get taken out, but not after doing a lot of damage to that expansion. Now, what I don't like about our Zerg player is that he had those great opportunities while the army was distracted in the Protoss natural, or while he was coming over to get this third. He had those 42 roaches just sitting in the middle, and he didn't do anything with them. He now has them loaded up in a Nidus network, and it looks like we will be seeing another attempt at Nidus play. We see an Infestor drop in the main, not going to be seen yet by our blue Protoss, and unfortunately there's nothing for Threnody to kill with these Infestors. He will throw out a bajillion Infested Terrans and take out those pylons, some of the production facilities, but there are no workers there, and Incoherence responding similarly to when he was playing Game 3. He sees a lot of pressure at his main, so he's just going to go take out his entire army and try and just kill him.
Now the Protoss at this point cannot just add any units to this. He is extremely supply blocked. He's now down to 172 supply. All these roaches are getting taken out. Infestors are coming forward, getting some nice fungal growth on a lot of those units. These roaches will go down. They're still... Ooh, feedback's going down on those Infestors. Very nicely done. A lot of them just have to go. There's not going to be any more fungal, as all the Protoss army just moves ahead once more. It looks like Threnody is going to be trying to reinforce with Hydras. A bad rally. They're all just running right into the Colossi, and this gold expansion will go down. There's not much that he can do about this. And it doesn't look like there's any drop place. He just wants to defend this with his life. It looks like the gold is still mining just barely. Stalker's blinking back very nicely. 2 Colossi left. These Hydras won't be able to hold up, but reinforcements are on the way. They will be able to do with 12 Hydras and 5 Roaches coming out, and there's just not much that the Protoss can reinforce with despite the fact that he has lots of minerals. He got terribly supply blocked when those Infestors took out all those pylons in his main.
That was a nice little pylon farm. Reminded me of StarCraft Brood Wars. Made me a little bit nostalgic, but it did make it incredibly vulnerable for all those slow-moving infested Terrans to just shoot their little needle guns and take them out. And we are seeing that Threnody took a lot of losses. He lost the gold expansion, he lost his army, he lost a lot of the reinforcements, but he is still ahead in this game.
And there's still a Nidus Worm down in the back of the main. He's going in with Roaches and Hydras to go ahead and do even more damage. And there's not much that the Protoss player can do. He's going to try to move all his forces in, but they can just load up the Nidus Worm again if they want to and move back the other way.
These Colossi are the first to come in, but they will be vulnerable. Now the Zealots coming in to reinforce them, and Threnody should be pulling back this force, and he's not going to do much more damage. May kill a couple extra units, a couple Zealots, but really not doing as much damage as those units up there.
There's a Dark Templar down at the top of the base, took out the Queen, took out a lot of, now going after that assimilator, extractor, and he's just running around. There's really nothing that there's another DT coming out. There's multiple DTs because there's two more in that base. There's right next to all of this massive little cluster of infestors. DTs causing some serious damage, but that Overseer getting out there just in time. He does not see these two DTs waiting in his gold expansion.
Now, we did call it earlier that DTs were a possibility when we saw the Spore Crawlers go down. Those DTs picked a very bad time to try and attack. Did a little bit of damage to that infestor, but clearly not enough. That Overseer was right there, and he was indeed seeing over everything that was happening. As I was saying, we mentioned these Spore Crawlers were a bit of a weird choice for Threnody. Turns out they weren't that weird, as we do have Dark Templar play, but they're at the wrong base. They were not able to protect this top expansion. I do not know if our player knows about the fifth base. He does not. So that is very safe from our Protoss player, because he hasn't spotted it. He also has not done anything about the Nidus Worm in his name. So anytime he wants to, Threnody can just load up some lanes, some Hydras, even these infestors, just go right back in and take out these production facilities. All that is here is this Dark Templar to spot this, which will not be enough against a large enough army. Even if the army can't see it, they just run around and do a lot more damage. We are seeing a bunch of Zerglings loaded up in the Nidus Worms, while the Roaches, Hydras, and Infestors, and some Corruptors are moving out to the middle.
And our Zerg player is going to feel very safe knowing they took out so many of those pylons. A lot of minerals have been wasted replacing all of those. And Twilight Council coming down because he did take that out. He wants to be able to get those upgrades. I believe he has Charging Blink. I'm not sure what that Twilight Council is going to do for him if he has the Templar Archives up already. Maybe he doesn't. But that Dark Shrine is out. Oh, these Zerglings taking away all the Roaches and Hydras, moving straight forward. There's really not much that's going to be that our Protoss player is going to be able to do about this. The Stalkers and the Colossi getting nice storms off on that army. The Infestors and Roaches and Hydras are going to move back, but these Corruptors are going to be able to walk in there and take out those Colossi. Roaches moving forward, a little bit mistimed because those Hydras were pretty far behind. Some great storms going off. Feedback trying to go off, taking out 3 of those Infestors, and it looks like that this Zerg army is going to be able to just be taken out, but it looks like Threnody will be able to remax pretty quickly. He's back at 105 already, and the Zerglings were cleaned up by all these DTs out in the main. And it looks like Threnody has all his bases mining again, but a massive Protoss army at his front door.
Threnody did reinforce with 72 more Zerglings. He has taken out those Colossi, and no more are in production, which means the Zerglings are going to do a little bit better, but this Archon has +2 attack, so he is killing these Zerglings in one hit with splash damage. So Zerglings not going to be enough to take out this Protoss army, and we will have to see what Incoherence does. He's doing a little dance, pushing up, pulling back, pushing up, and now he's going to be going to this 4th base. Will be able to take this out as there are 11 Roaches and 1 Hydra coming to try and reinforce. That is not going to be enough against this force. Roaches coming in from the top base, that is going to reveal the Incoherence that there is a 5th base up there, and he's just going to confirm that by sending a couple Zealots over there. This is not looking good for a Zerg player, even though he did all sorts of great damage in the main. Threnody wishes GG and best of luck in the rest of the tournament. So Incoherence able to come back from a 2-game deficit to win 3-2. This was an incredible series.
I can't believe what I just saw. I mean, that reverse sweep was so clutch. Those Dark Templars were so clutch indeed, in your own words. I mean, by the end of that match, Threnody was only on 2 mining bases and a little bit on that gold base. That was just absolutely insane. I'm so glad I got to be part of that. I can't wait to continue on through the rest of this tournament.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. This has been our absolute pleasure to be casting together. I am Nacho Cheese.
And my name is Unctious.
And we will be seeing you in the quarterfinals. Excuse me, the semifinals. We just finished the quarterfinals.